Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. Long past due. So for those of you who know what you're looking at, you should be a little bit excited about this because you all know that this is the shield of Wonder Woman. And not just any shield, this is a 1-to-1 size shield. And you will recognize it if you really follow the collectibles of Wonder Woman. You will recognize this as the 1-to-1 shield from the Queen Studios Wonder Woman bust. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, I think, giving this collectible the attention it deserves. And as those of you who are subscribers to my channel know, I do like to give a lot of a breathing room, a lot of time to these special pieces. And sometimes, I ramble on quite a bit, but I think that there is a little bit of a niche for that. There's too many, I think, videos out there on YouTube that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. They're maybe that length for various reasons. There's ad revenue to consider, views, number of videos to put out. But since I don't care about any of that stuff, I get to sort of do whatever I want and give it some of these pieces the time and attention it deserves. And some people won't like that, and other people will. But for whatever it's worth, here we go. So let me give you a quick little sneak peek at what we're going to be spending a lot of time with today. And that is the gorgeous 1-to-1 scale silicone bust of Gadot, which is supposedly how you pronounce her name. We'll get into that pronunciation a little bit later. So we're going to do this in different parts to cut it up because it is kind of difficult to do, and I don't have this on my normal kitchen island because it's kind of tricky showcasing the different ways of displaying her. So we'll start with the shield. So the bust comes with this stand, display stand, and then you put the shield on top of it, and the shield is actually removable. It's something you can actually carry around and hold. So we'll start with the shield, and then I'll cut. We'll get to Wonder Woman, and then we'll display the shield behind her, which is kind of the way they want you to display her, and go from there. So there's gonna be many parts of the video. We're gonna take our time and do a deep dive. So we'll start with the more, I think, simple review, which is the shield. Now, it has a beautiful base. It's very evident which side is the front. Now, you may think that's really dumb, but actually, it can be a little bit confusing. But if we turn this around, you will see here that this is a sort of a curved, and it has this kind of semicircular curve. And this is meant to go around the bust of Wonder Woman's base, right? So that's a circular base, and so this is obviously meant to go around that. So this is the part that's supposed to be to her back, and obviously you want that against her back as well. Okay, you can see that this is actually I don't know if it's real leather. For the price tag, it really should be, but whether it's real leather or faux leather, this is kind of not resin. And you can actually adjust the strap here, and you can actually hold the shield like this. The majority, the rest of the shield, in my opinion, is all resin, I think. And this is the base right here. There's a slot, and you just drop the shield right in. So looking at the base, it's a very nice, simple base, very classy. It's made out of resin and then painted gold, kind of aged or antique finish gold. Very, very nice. You can kind of see almost a hint of a star here. Sorry for using gloves, but I had to use it to move her. I didn't want to risk maybe putting my oils on the silicone skin. So anyways, so you can tell that this curvature is meant to go to the back of Wonder Woman's, the bust's base itself. And then moving around to the back, kind of very, in my opinion, very pretty, beautiful motifs on the base here. Very nicely decorated. We'll go a little bit closer. I like it. I think it's quite classy. And then sort of the Wonder Woman sigil. I think that's actually supposed to be reminiscent of the eagle. I can see a little bit of the eagle beak here, over here. And then, you know, the slot you can see on the side. From here, how it fits in through this little groove. There you go. And again, let's see the loving detail of the back surface here. And up here as well, you can see the W of the sigil, then the eyes, and then sort of the grain and the finish over here as well as here. And then turning it around, we have the shield itself. I'm gonna back up so you can actually see it in all its glory. Very beautiful. Here's some of the detail on the edges. Very nice, clean paint job, in my opinion. And then, of course, all of the detail, the sort of sun motif in the center. You can see all of the texturing here. This is all real textures right here. You can feel that. All of this stuff is in relief. So, you know, overall, a beautiful rendition, 1-to-1 prop rendition of the shield she uses in the original Wonder Woman. This is based on Wonder Woman, obviously, not Wonder Woman 1984. And that's the shield there. Now, this does come, of course, with the bust. And I think there was a little bit of confusion. I wonder, I think that Queen Studios initially maybe had wanted to release this separately or something, but then just decided to include it with the bust, which I think is a nice gesture considering how expensive the bust is. But I don't know the exact details of this. Maybe some of you who know can correct me in the comments below. I heard rumors though that there was a pretty limited edition version of the shield that was like metal or something like that. And that you have to buy separately. And I think it was like, I don't know, I'm just guessing, I think it was about $600 or something like that. So when I bought her, you know, the focus was really on Wonder Woman herself and not so much the shield. In fact, to be honest with you, I didn't really even care if she came with a shield at all. And if it had made the bust a little bit less expensive, I would have welcomed not having the shield, because this is actually rather awkward to display. The shield itself adds quite a bit of depth to the bust, meaning that you have to account for now this much extra depth. This is probably a good, at least maybe 6 inches in my opinion. And so it makes it more awkward to display her. And if you want to obviously see the shield in all its glory, you have to incorporate that shield to the back of Wonder Woman, and then both pieces have to fit on a very large turntable if you really want to use the turntable to show her. And if she is going to go into a static display, which means that she's not going to be a centerpiece and she's not going to be put on a turntable, then I'm going to show that later on. Then what happens is, by, of course, definition, all you're going to see is the silhouette of the shield, because Wonder Woman herself will be in the way, and you will never ever really get to see this part, which is, you know, kind of the cool part, the cool looking part of the shield. And so in a certain way of thinking, unless you display the shield next to her side by side, this is kind of wasted. Now, while it would be really cool to have a, you know, kind of a metal replica of the shield, the extra cost, you know, would not be, in my opinion, really worth it when you consider the final display, you know, options. All right, so that's Wonder Woman's shield in a nutshell. Very nice, and I think at least with this video, you know, for posterity, you're going to get to admire this, because when I finally display it, and maybe that the only way I can admire the details of the shield is by my YouTube video, because I'm certainly not going to be able to very easily, you know, take it to mess around with it once I have her in her final position where I plan to display her. Okay, I'm going to stop the video and we're going to jump to the next part, which is going to be, of course, Wonder Woman herself. See you then. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So now we can finally focus on the main star of the show. So this is the Queen Studios Gadot Wonder Woman bust. Now, most reviews of her pronounce her name apparently incorrectly. They tend to pronounce her Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot. But I'm actually one of the offenders as well. I did a review of a extraordinary piece by J&D Studios. This is a 1/3 scale version of her in the Golden Eagle armor from Wonder Woman 1984, and I pronounced that again incorrectly. I think Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot. But apparently the appropriate Israeli pronunciation sans the Hebrew accent or whatever, since of course I don't speak Hebrew, it's supposed to be pronounced Gel Gadot or Gel Gadot or Gadot. So that's about as close as I can make it to the proper pronunciation of her name. I'm sure that's still not completely accurate, but it's better than Gal Gadot. So anyways, I'll try to continue to use that when I do this review. Now it's a little bit tricky. I'm kind of sitting a little bit further away, and I don't want to use the black background or anything like that. Now she's on my kitchen table instead of the kitchen countertop. And the reason for this will become apparent later on when I try to do a circle around her to show you what she looks like with the shield in position. Here, the shield is right over here, but I like to keep the focus on her. It's a little bit tricky because I just have like an iPhone. And so because I have an iPhone, when you try to get too close to her, you begin to distort the image. You tend to sort of give like a rather odd fish lens, sort of, fish eye, look to her. And I think that sort of, it kind of, disturbs the likeness, so to speak, okay? And also in real life, her likeness is extraordinary. And here again, you're sort of seeing her with sort of the light from above, from the overheads. And that may again affect the way she comes across. But rest assured that in person, with the correct interplay of shadows over her, she is essentially an extraordinary likeness of Gail. So let's get to work with the nitty gritty. They only made 500 of her. And I forgot the exact detail. I have I think number 236, I want to say, is what I have. I'm not going to show the certificate of authenticity. They actually have this really cool plaque where you can actually put the plaque down in front of her and showcase that. I'm not going to do that because I have to take it out of the box, and then I have to screw the thing in. I'm not really going to display the certificate that way because while it's very, very classy having the certificate sort of at an angle in front of her, it takes way too much space, and she already takes a huge amount of space as it stands. So that's not going to be happening. So Queen Studios, when Wonder Woman came out, the life-size 1-to-1 silicon bust, 2 versions were created, and they were announced pretty close to each other. So there's this obvious sort of competition. One was by Infinity Studios, who was at that time a pretty new company in the collectible market. I had owned a few of their pieces. They started off with more like traditionally Chinese art, culturally Chinese art. They did a lot of kind of famous generals from Chinese mythology and Chinese history on horses, very gorgeous things. And they did a few pieces very indicative of Chinese mythology, Chinese folklore. One of them, is Fearless Journey, which is a dragon piece that I have on my channel, a review of. It's one of my favorite pieces. And then they did a follow-up called The Pilgrimage, which, while still stunning, was not quite as good in my opinion as Fearless Journey because of the execution issues. So Infinity Studios was mainly known for that, and then they got the DC license, and they decided to create these torsos of the DC superheroes: Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. And of course, Queen Studios has been in the game quite a bit longer, and unlike Infinity Studios, Queen Studios sort of made their mark, or began their entry into the collectibles market, made their name in 1-to-1 size silicon busts. So those were the 2 in competition, and I chose to get the Queen Studios version. I've done reviews of a couple of their past pieces, I own their Hugh Jackman Wolverine. I own the Tom Hiddleston Loki, and also their Wonder Woman Thanos bust, the original one, not the huge torso. And so I have a lot of trust in Queen Studios and their production process. And I did slightly prefer the crossed arm pose as well. The Infinity Studios one sold out very, very quickly. And its production version really has not found its way into a lot of collectors' hands yet. There's a few scattered people around the globe and around the internet who's gotten versions, and that quality has varied. There's been some that's looked, almost prototype level quality, and that's an amazing piece with her and the lasso, the likeness, all of that. But there have been some production level issues for other collectors. So I think that quality does vary. And I think, in my opinion, it shows a little bit of the inexperience that Infinity Studios has at the factory level, creating these individual works of art. And so in a way, I am, I'm glad that I decided to stick with, the company that I'm comfortable with, which is, again, Queen Studios. So this now, what's there to say? I guess we should start by, again, giving you this overall look. From far away, I think you can appreciate the likeness. I think this is a amazing likeness of Gal Gadot. And as we go a little bit closer, hopefully that will stand up. But from far away, there's none of that distortion from the fish eye distortion. And so hopefully you can appreciate that a lot better. I'm going to show her from different angles, and then we'll start doing close-ups and stuff. So I'm going to start by turning her just a little bit so you can get a profile view. Notice that they went to the detail of actually showing you her mole on her left cheek. I don't know the exact placement of the mole. I'm not that big a Gadot fan, but in the J&D Studios version, the mole is a little bit higher up. But she has a mole obviously there because both companies decided to give that to her. But that kind of shows you the level of detail that she has, that these companies go to. So this is what she looks like, profile view right here. Again, try to get a little bit further away so you can appreciate what she looks like. From here, by the way, you can also tell that she has a perfectly cast silicone ear as well. I mean, I am an ear, nose, and throat doctor, so I know the ear anatomy very well, and this is pretty darn accurate. So I don't even know if this is actually, Gal's actual ear. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. And then we're going to move to the other side and give you the other profile shot. So there you go on that side. And then we're going to show what she looks like on the back. So here's her hair, and that's what she looks like from the back. Let's back up a little bit more. So I'm gonna kind of freeze on this while we talk a little bit about everything. So from the production process, this Wonder Woman prototype came out about the same time as the Infinity Studios version. And to be honest, at the time, the initial reaction was mixed. There was a feeling that her face was looking a little bit too much downward. And when you combine that with the cross of her gauntlets, the feeling was, well, we weren't able to really get a very good look at her face. It was an awkward pose, and the likeness was a little bit soft. The likeness was a little bit off. And of course, this was accentuated then by the fact that the Infinity Studios prototype looked amazing. Very, very good likeness of Wonder Woman. And so, sort of Queen Studios, all credit to them. And this is the way they've always been. I hope they continue to do so. They decided to go back, and even though it probably did cut significantly into their profit margin, they decided to redo the prototype, resculpted, did the whole thing, changed the angle of the head, continued to work again on the likeness. And when they came out with the newer version, there was, in my opinion, a significant improvement. And I feel like because the pose is different, it's kind of harder to judge. I don't feel, in my opinion, that this version of Gal Gadot is any inferior to the Infinity Studios version. I think the likeness is, in my opinion, just as strong. I think that, likeness and interpretation of that is very individualized, very personal. A lot of collectors will have their own ideas about what is a good likeness and what isn't. And obviously, an actor has many different facial expressions depending on the angle that they're shot, depending on, again, their emotions, depending on just the particular moment in time that you just had to take a snapshot. These actors can look significantly different. So the same with anything from Hugh Jackman all the way to, Gal Gadot. And so, I wonder if sometimes, if you had an actual picture of the actress themselves rather than a collectible, whether there would be some people who would say that's not actually Gal. But in my opinion, seeing her in the flesh, looking at her from all around, I think the likeness is spot on. It's actually a phenomenal likeness, in my opinion. Before getting into a lot of the extra details, let's start from the beginning. She comes in one huge box. The box contains both herself, the base, as well as the shield and the shield's base. It's very, very heavy, probably close to, I would say 80 pounds, 90 pounds maybe, all together. So it's a very, very heavy box, but packed exquisitely well. She doesn't come in a whole lot of different pieces. The shield comes with the base, that's 2 pieces right there. And then Wonder Woman herself has the 2 gauntlets that comes off. And then she comes in one solid piece. She's completely bagged. There's a hairnet to keep her hair into position. And then there's the base itself. And then these little tiny accents are packaged individually, which you insert. So again, very little opportunity for damage, in my opinion. And the less parts, of course, there are, the less opportunity there is for damage. And she's very, very solid, very, very heavy. The core of her must be solid resin, and the silicon itself, the silicon itself obviously weighs quite a bit as well. And just with her alone, this is close to, I think, probably anywhere from 30 to 40 pounds, probably closer to 40 pounds when I feel the weight of her, maybe even more. And so it's very difficult. I mean, I think even these forearms are probably 5 to even 7 pounds each. So it all adds up. So moving her definitely, is not simple. I would tend to suggest to move the base first and then really grab her and use gloves so you don't sully the elbows too much. And then do that separately because she's quite a load. Okay, so again, in terms of the packaging, very, very solid. And then of course there's a certificate, and then there's these little metal pegs and screws to angle the certificate so that it angles up so you can see it. So that's how the packaging comes. Now in terms of the materials, the base is resin, and this part here is resin. Her costume here, that's resin. This here is fall leather. Okay, this is all leather right here. Believe it or not, the hand wraps are not cast from silicone. This is actually leather itself, and then they actually wrap the leather around the silicone hands. All right, so they're attached by rare earth magnets in the stumps of the arms, and you just slide right there, and it just snaps right into position. So this is actually leather. All of this right here, this is all leather as well, and then all the way to the back, you can see that. This is a strap that actually is separate and distinct from the actual silicone. Okay. So there's multimedia at play here. The hair is very beautiful. It feels just like regular hair. And I think they use like silk or something. I mean, Queen Studios normally uses silk, but I don't think this is a wig. Sometimes, you do have to take shortcuts because it would be just insane to have to hand punch all of these. Normally, at least the hairline here is hand punched, but then they kind of cheat a little bit and they just use the wig further back. But I think for her, they may have actually hand punched each individual hair, which would be just an insane amount of labor in order to in order to achieve that. Okay, so that's pretty crazy. In terms of the materials, the entire bust, I haven't described if it's not leather or resin. Everything else is basically silicon. Okay, everything else is basically silicon. This is obviously the headpiece is resin, and Wonder Woman has the most amount of silicon of any of the busts. She has even more silicon than I think the Incredible Hulk, which is which is certainly big, but I think he doesn't have any arms, and so she actually has more silicon than even the Hulk. And the price point does reflect that. And if I turn it around, you can see that they actually show a pretty good sized chunk of her upper torso, her back. Whereas the Hulk, they kind of cheat on the back end of it a little bit. And they don't show as much of the shoulders. And the same thing for Thanos as well. And Thanos doesn't even have silicon shoulders. He just has resin. They were trying to save a little bit on cost and weight from that. So, this is a legitimate torso of Wonder Woman. You've got, her hands, the shoulders, all the way down to essentially her xiphoid, all the way down to the bottom here, as low as where the xiphoid would normally be, probably an inch or two below her breasts. So this is quite a big piece. She is a little bit slender. Gadot is a very tall woman, but she is very thin, and so this kind of reflects that as well. So her face is a little bit skinnier than, say, I don't know, a Tom Hiddleston or a Hugh Jackman. But in terms of overall size, she's a very, very big piece, because essentially you're getting at least a third, and you're approaching half of essentially an entire woman. Okay, you're getting half of a woman, essentially torso up and above. So that's pretty insane. So it's reflected in her size and in her weight. So before getting again into too much of the detail of what she looks like, let's just start methodically. So let's go bottom down, look at the base. She has a simple black circular base, and I have her on a turntable. So you can see here that there's a lot of beautiful detail and relief. It's very much in keeping with sort of the Greek background of her character. So take a look here. Hopefully you can appreciate all of the little filigrees and then gold accents. I'll move it around very slowly so you can kind of appreciate that. It's, she's so stunning herself that the eye, of course, doesn't really gravitate toward the base. So this is sort of a nice, a nice opportunity to showcase and highlight that. So you can see all of this, and it repeats. And again, all of this is in relief. All right, so it comes all the way out, beautifully weathered right here. And then you can see further up more gold highlights. This is all gold as well. And then this is almost looks like marble. It's very smooth and pretty. Just kind of showcase all of that. So it feels like maybe the marble that you would see in the Parthenon, or some of these other Greek, the Acropolis, the Parthenon, some of these Greek architectural relics. This is the Wonder Woman sigil. You can see the two W's interspersed over each other. And I think it's kind of a very nice, subtle way to showcase who she is. Licensing sometimes demands that you have the movie and or the character prominently displayed at the front of the art piece, even though there are a lot of collectors who dislike that. They feel like it takes away from the museum quality or the museum finish of a piece. But licensing may demand that. So this is kind of a nice way of, maybe satisfying that and compromising without, quote unquote, cheapening it with a name tag or a plaque. And then finally, this version of Wonder Woman does not come with the golden lasso. The Infinity Studios one, the golden lasso is a very prominent part of that bust. I mean, she's actually stretching it. So for this version, of course, she comes with a shield, no lasso. And so I think that this is sort of a homage to her golden lasso. And I think it's supposed to represent the swirls and the whirls of the lasso in motion. And so you can see all of that all the way around as well. It's made out of plastic, and it has to be because it has to bend, because you actually attach it in these grooves around the base, and then you actually have to move it and slip it into grooves on the undersurface of this portion of the base itself. And so there's 1, 2, 3, I think there's 5 of these, and you just put them in manually all the way throughout. So I actually quite enjoy the, I really quite enjoy the way they kind of designed it. And I think it is a pretty ingenious way of trying to depict the Gadot lasso without actually having to have a Gadot lasso. Because again, that would change everything. She would have to hold it, and you can't really put it around the waist because you don't show her hips here. Again, Infinity Studios decided to deal with it by literally having her hold it in her hand, and Queen Studios went another direction. So this is quite a lovely base. And then there's a large peg here, and then you basically put Wonder Woman over that, okay? So this is kind of harder to show from below, but here I'm going below her hands. So here is, kind of the bust portion. Again, this is leather. You can actually see the little resin button there, or the nail. And then a very, very beautiful finish. You can actually see the details of the finish and the texturing, the gold and the red all throughout. You can see a little bit of the battle damage right over here. So very nicely done. I'm gonna move it all the way around. Hopefully you can appreciate again sort of the beautiful texturing all the way down here. And then at the very back, of course, here is where the actual support of the bust is. But you can see the back here. But they really went above and beyond to show it. The leather strap here is secured and glued very, very tightly over here. So that strap is really tight against the silicone. And then you can see the expansive silicone flesh all the way around. And then here again, you can see the distressed metal finish all the way along here. You can see the scratches and the battle damage along the armor right over here. And then again, the small texturing. So overall, I think her chest is very good. It's not ridiculously huge. You can see the Wonder Woman sigil over there, and then the leather. So, bust, nice, good size, and beautifully done, beautifully painted with beautiful finish. And this is all resin, very nice, okay? So moving up, we have now her famous gauntlets. You can see the battle damage here. This is all resin, and then it slaps right on. But this here, of course, is all silicone. So you have both of these. We talked about the leather straps, the wrappings. Now here, if you want to nitpick, you can nitpick and say that the battle damage here maybe it could be done a little bit better. It's a little bit too artificial looking, perhaps. Maybe it could be worn a little bit better. But overall, I think that's a little nitpick. It's still quite nice. And then they took the added detail again of not casting everything in one thing. They did take the time to put that multimedia fall leather over the actual silicone hands. Now, we talked about this a long time ago when I reviewed Hugh Jackman's arm, which is very rare. I think they made it available preferentially for people who bought the bust, but it's really, really hard to get your hands correct, okay? And so it's nice to know that, Queen Studios sort of spent a lot of attention onto her hands and her fist. I'm gonna put it next to each other so you can see that they did a great job. You can see the knuckles. If you go close enough, you can actually appreciate the pores of the skin, which is one of the things that, silicone does so well. It does actually mimic flesh almost perfectly well. And then you have the thumbnail over here. You have a few nails down below again, but this is kind of harder to see just because of the angle. And that looks very, very good. I mean, the nail here is actually silicone as well, right? You can tell when I touch it, but if you didn't know, it would be harder to tell. Again, not perfect because of course they didn't put a real nail here, but there are limits to what you can do with silicone. But from afar, that looks like a really, really good hand. Certainly Excellent work there. And then we're gonna showcase the hand from this direction. Again, excellent detail. You can see each individual finger is separate. So very, very good job with the hands. They did lift her head a little bit, and they did lower the hands, I think, just a little bit, so you have a better appreciation, so that when you are looking at her straight up, I'm sitting down a little bit, you have clear appreciation of her face. So now, of course, moving to her face, what a face it is. Very, very nice makeup for the lips, not overly red. Gorgeous eyes. These are glass eyes. The eyebrows are all hand punched, and the lashes are also, of course, all hand punched as well. So again, when I do this, you're gonna get the fish eye distortion, but hopefully moving away, you can definitely appreciate the excellent likeness. And I'm moving all the way around her, so I'm moving, not her, and you can hopefully appreciate in real time as we're moving around her how stunning the likeness is to Gal. So here you go. Now there's a lot of different ways of sort of displaying her. On YouTube, there aren't a whole lot of reviews of this piece or of life-size Gal Gadot pieces in general. I told you again that Infinity Studios did not release a whole bunch. I think they only made about 300 and change, and I believe, in my opinion, they're having problems with production. That complete edition has not been finished, and only a few, I think, lucky or high-profile collectors or those in Asia have gotten the Infinity Studios version scattered around there. I'm thinking there's got to be at least another 100, maybe even 200 that they still have yet to make, in my opinion. Whereas Korean Studios is now finished with the production with their entire run, in my opinion. But even so, there was only 500 of them. And when I went on YouTube just to check, there aren't a lot of YouTube video reviews of her. There's, I think, just off the top of my head, I think there's 5, maybe 4 or 5. Obviously, Mr. X of Extreme Collectibles has one of them. And then there's a few Asian stores or high-profile Asian collectors who have them. And I think of Batman, there's a guy who, he did a review, but he did a voiceover for like a guy who actually owned it, but the guy didn't want to be on screen or something like that. He didn't want to talk. So, it just got sort of weird. But there's this Batman collector who did one. But there's not many out there, so hopefully this one will sort of add some information to that. But yeah, there you have it. She, in my opinion, the likeness here is incredible. And photos absolutely do not do her justice. Not even, I think, the professional photos that Queen Studios takes really does her justice. But I think video is a lot better because I'm moving constantly. And as I move, hopefully that will sort of make up for any distortion that may come from my iPhone lens. So you can see her from various angles. The way you style her hair is very important. For some reason, Mr. X, when he reviewed her, decided to have the hair falling forward. I don't think that's a very good look. I think she looks the best, and the likeness looks the best when you have the hair brushed back and falling over her back and her shoulders. So the hair should not be covering her shoulders, in my opinion, right over here. Okay, I think this gives her the best likeness. So I'll say it again. I think this is a utterly spectacular likeness for Gal Gadot, and I couldn't be happier with her. Pictures, again, the weakest version. Video, much better, but still, limitations. But seeing her in person, like I'm looking at my recording on my phone, and I'm looking at her in person, and in person, even so, like there's a huge difference in terms of what she looks like. In person, she looks, again, completely, utterly stunning. And of course, Gal Gadot is a model. It's part of the reason she got the job. She's an extraordinarily beautiful woman. And so this bust, of course, is extraordinarily beautiful. It's very, very refined. And just what can you say? I'm just trying to give you all of the angles that I can from both below and above, so you can kind of see her, moving her around, and then sort of just getting a feel for how much silicone was used for her. This is a huge undertaking, a very, very difficult piece to do. And it came out great. If you want to look at the perfect symmetry of her nose, her lips, sort of the gaze, utterly fantastic. Even like I said, I checked the ears. The ears are perfect as well. And of course, you have her, her, I don't even know what you call this, her headband or whatnot. That did come off center, but very easily adjusted to make it center as well. And then moving back. Now, there are certain concerns about silicone. Queen Studios, I know for a fact, uses platinum silicone. This is platinum medical grade silicone. They will last for decades, even maybe longer. I got a Terminator 2 endoscope from Howard Senft, and I bought that over 13 years ago, and it's still in my collection, and the silicone is just as good as ever, maybe a little bit dusty, but no issues with degradation. And for this level of quality, this is the pinnacle of high art collection if you care about likeness, and I think it's worth it. It's worth it to take the gamble, pay the extra expense. It's worth the concern over the degeneration and all of these other things, because you get a effect that you simply can't get with any other medium, even the translucent resin. So there you have it. Here's the armband. Again, this is resin here as well, and it's placed over her upper arms. Now there's some people who got her and there's glistening or sweating of the silicone as well. They look extra wet. Luckily, I didn't have that problem. If you do have that problem, you have to apply a little bit of talcum powder to dry it up. Sometimes the silicone breathes. My Thanos bust had it just a little bit, but it wasn't bad enough for me to want to break out the powder, and I'm pretty satisfied with how Thanos looks. Wonder Woman has none at all. There's like a spot here or two along her arms maybe and her back that I touched up, but other than that, completely fine. So I hope that, from this view, on multiple views, you can see there's no real glistening of her skin. It looks completely normal, completely fine. One of the things that I'm just so impressed by is how well they did her nose. Again, as an ear, nose, and throat doctor, I do pay a little bit extra attention to the parts of the anatomy, like the lips, the nose. Looks really, really, really good. So there you have it. Okay, about as good a likeness of Gal Gadot as I could hope for. And again, in my opinion, in no way, inferior to the Infinity Studios version. This is just another pose, another way of kind of showcasing her. So there you have it, right over here. Now, it can't just be all effusive praise. While I'm like over the moon with how she turned out, and everybody who's seen her, of course, is blown away by her. There are some areas that you can improve. Under direct light, you can see that her hair is not completely black. It's more of this sort of brownish color, which is interesting. And her eyebrows, of course, are a little bit washed out. The real Gal Gadot has much darker hair and much darker eyebrows, or at least, the ones when she's in Wonder Woman, it's much more black. And if you look at her on the color box, it shows, again, this bust with much, much darker hair. Now, part of that may just be sort of the angle or the lighting. And if I were to, for instance, turn off the overhead kitchen light so that there's no light over her, now when we look at her, you can see that her hair now looks a lot darker, a lot blacker. And if I sit here and you get to see that, I think you can agree with me that all of a sudden she looks even a little bit better. And without the harsh lights shining down on her, the likeness gets even stronger. So just remember that the phone here is designed to suck in light. It's designed to sort of maximize light. But in real life, when you see her, you know, when it's a little bit darker, that hair gets a little bit darker, the likeness to Gal becomes even stronger, so to speak. And so here, you know, her eyebrows look a little bit darker, her hair looks a little bit darker, and all of a sudden the likeness begins to pop even more. Now you see that, I know that you see that here a little bit stronger, but again, in real life, not through the lens of an iPhone camera or any camera, the likeness becomes even better, even better. And if you have the proper background, you know, that type of thing, I bet it could look even better than that. So from here, just again showcasing how she looks, just like that. And then over here, let's take a look at different views. So again, it just makes a really big difference without overhead lighting giving you that brown look to her hair. I think the likeness becomes really, really, really good. But yeah, if you want to say, like, you know, the only area of criticism I would say is that maybe make the hair even a little bit darker still. And the eyebrows, for sure, make those eyebrows a little bit darker still. But that's about the only area I can think of for improvement. So once again, with the change lighting, I'm just gonna walk around and show her off from different angles, both wide and also close up. So hopefully you get the benefit of what she looks like without the distortion. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but you know, you can always mute me if you don't like that, or you could listen to me and help you go to sleep. But a big portion of this review is also just continue to give you, you know, constant high definition, 60 frames a second, 60 frames a minute, I'm sorry. Just, you know, capture of what she looks like. So you get as much information as possible, because there's so little YouTube reviews of her, and a lot of it is just so limited and so short. So for those of you who are thinking about it, you can have, like, you know, really, really good idea from all different angles what this likeness looks like, and whether, you know, it does it for you, whether you think that this is a good likeness of Gal Gadot. Obviously I think so, but again, there you have it. So you can see completely, this is what you're gonna get. Okay, so one last thing, I'm going to check her out and see if we dim the lights even more, what does it look like with different shadows. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video. We're going to come back again, and we're going to see her with even, you know, maybe less light to see how well that likeness begins to change. Okay, welcome back. I did experiment with the lighting a little bit, and actually this is probably still the best lighting, mainly because it makes her hair look a lot darker. But at the same time, if I made the light any worse, then you can't see her at all. Like, you know, basically she's completely in shadows. You can't really appreciate the likeness. So this is still the best combination of lighting, at least, you know, in my home. I encourage you to look at other videos, other reviews. There's one, I forgot the name, unfortunately, but his review was amazing. I thought it was actually the prototype, but he told me it wasn't. It wasn't just another production sample, but the way he had it lit, the hair looked completely black, the eyebrows looked black, or maybe he just got a nicer production version that just used a little bit darker hair. It's hard to say. But in any case, I wanted to show you this last bit where this is what she looks like, the way she's supposed to be displayed. So you can see the shield behind her. So the illusion is that she's wearing the shield on her back. So as you can see, if you don't have her on a turntable, then you're never going to be able to see the shield. And you have to have it on a very large turntable, because in this case, my turntable is only large enough to actually accommodate the base for Wonder Woman herself. And it's not large enough for you to slide the shield behind. Now, if you look at the base, you can see that this curvature of the base of the shield is meant to, you know, just basically fit snugly with the circular part of the Wonder Woman base. And that's how you create this illusion that the shield is basically on her back. just like for the movie. And if we were just to sort of walk around her, this is what she looks like with the shield on the side. And then let's look at her from the other side. So that's what she looks like with the shield on the side there. And then finally, we're just going to walk around and you're going to see her with a shield like this. And this is a shot that you're never going to see of her because, I mean, you know, what are you going to do? That's essentially the back side of her. So you can just see her hair and the shield there. So this is the way she's supposed to be, I guess, optimally displayed. But it is, I think, a little bit of a shame that if you display her this way, there's just no way to really appreciate the shield. Now let me show you a shot of the two of them side by side, and you can decide whether that's any better. Okay, so welcome back, and now we have the shield right next to her. So this is nice in a sense because you get to appreciate sort of, you know, the entire effect of this collectible. You can, you know, see her and the shield next to each other, but it's, you know, in my opinion, a little bit awkward looking. Just because, again, when you think about Wonder Woman's shield, you think of her either, you know, having it on her arm, like that iconic scene when she's running across the trenches in the movie, or, you know, you think of it on her back. And so displaying it next to her, while I think it's better at the display piece, it does feel a little bit more, it does feel a little bit less authentic, in my opinion, in terms of the effect. But this is sort of, you know, what I like to look at as kind of like the optimum view of this collectible and what you're getting out of the box. Okay, so there you have it. This is Wonder Woman from Queen Studios, 1:1 life-size bust. I'll end with just a few closing thoughts. Throughout the review, you've already heard me go on about what I think about her. Really love her pose, really love the production quality. Absolutely no issues from my end. Packaging, top-notch. All the materials, no complaints, top-notch. Beautiful silicone, beautiful likeness, gorgeous face, wonderful hair. Everything just completely classy, excellent. Limitation is reasonable, 500, maybe a little bit more than Infinity Studios. But, you know, again, if you want to look at the difference between the two studios, Queen Studios came out later, but now they have their entire run of 500 out, and they're still, Infinity Studios is still working on theirs. So, you know, that difference in experience, I think, does count, and that difference in experience comes out at the production level. Okay, again, anybody can make a drop-dead gorgeous prototype. That can be done, but it's another thing entirely to give us, especially at this price point, production level pieces that's like 99% as good as the prototype. That's very, very difficult to do, and while Queen Studios doesn't get all the way there, in my opinion, they still come the closest. So again, in terms of the quality of the piece, certainly no complaints, other than a little nitpick about how dark, you know, the hair, the eyebrows, and the hair itself is. But as you can see, lighting can make a huge difference in terms of how that looks. The price point has to be mentioned. You know, I don't know the actual distribution rights for her. Queen Studios is based in China. And so if, you know, I think Infinity Studios actually has worldwide distribution because Sideshow Collectibles actually sells their products through their website. And so by extension, the implication is that you actually can buy Infinity Studio products in the US. I don't know if Queen Studios has all of their products licensed for North American or European distribution. If you don't, you have to get it through, obviously, a third, you know, a middleman, and there's plenty of those who can do business with you. But the price point is pretty big for both. I mean, both Infinity Studios and Queen Studios is in the $3,000 neighborhood. I think Infinity Studios is a little bit more expensive, Queen Studios is just a touch under 3, maybe it's like $29.99, but it's, it's basically 3,000. And unfortunately, it cost, another 1,000 to ship. I mean, that box is dimensional weight, equivalent to like over 100 pounds. And at least for me, I decided I just had to pay the extra 1,000 because I've been waiting for her for over 2 years. Not really complaining about that. When you do one-to-one silicone pieces, they're just very hard to do to begin with. Superman Clark Kent has been released. Early production photos have been released from Chinese collectors. Again, Infinity Studios, and there's been some problems. There's been some dissatisfaction. Maybe part of that is the just the lighting, but there's issues. So when you're making life-size one-to-one busts, it's a process. It's difficult. When you're doing it of iconic characters like Superman and Wonder Woman, it's even worse. Batman, of course, is a lot easier because you're only seeing half his face, maybe a little bit less than half his face. But, Henry Cavill's Clark Kent, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, those are iconic faces, iconic characters. So very, very tricky. I think that Infinity Studios has been having some growing pains in the production process, as I, was afraid that they would. And so waiting 2 years for this to get done right, I have no complaints about that. Also, you don't have female one-to-one silicone busts. I mean, Wonder Woman is the first one. It's a huge leap of faith by both Infinity Studios and Queen Studios, stepping up to the plate to undertake that challenge. It's a huge, huge challenge. And I don't think that there is a mass market female one-to-one. Women are hard to do. Longer hair, more beautiful, refined features, the lashes, the eyebrows. I'm just trying to search in my mind, is there a one-to-one size? I think this is the first one, and to take on one of the most recognized and beautiful faces in the world, the face of Wonder Woman, that's, again, huge, huge challenge. I know that Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn from Infinity Studios is in the pipeline. We still have not seen production samples of those. I know that, Anne Hathaway's Selena Kyle from The Dark Knight Rises, again from Infinity Studios, is coming along. We have only seen a gorgeous prototype, no production pictures. And Queen Studios, unfortunately, for better or for worse, has gotten away from the one-to-one life-size bust game. They've gotten away from that. They're now looking into quarter-scale statues, one-to-one scale. They're more into Iron Man. And as an Iron Man lover, I'm very happy for them. Unfortunately, I don't have the space to buy those products anymore, but I'm happy they're moving in that direction. In a different time, if I had more room, I would be buying a lot more of their Iron Man pieces. But I'm sad because Queen Studios is still, their claim to fame, again, when they enter the market, was silicone busts, and they don't really have many anymore. I mean, I think they're making a ridiculous Thanos torso that's almost as much as a life size, like $7,000 or something like that dollars, and then they have a Vision life size, but certainly not. I don't remember any more stuff coming out from them that's really life size silicone, and there's no license for the female characters. We don't even see any whisper of a Captain America, Chris Evans, or Thor, or a Robert Downey Jr. portrait. I think the problem again is likeness. I think Marvel likenesses are very expensive, or they're just not being granted, and so they're out of the game. So for a woman and someone like Gal Gadot to get it right, to get it this good, don't mind the 2-year wait. But when you've waited 2 years, you don't want to take the chance. I mean, I would have saved a couple $100 if I had it on sea, on boat. It probably would have made it here fine. This is not a very exceptionally fragile piece, but you don't want to take any chances. When you waited over 2 years for a piece and you spent over $3,000, at the end of the day, you bite the bullet and you get her. But $1,000 plus shipping is very painful, but she's in the house. That's what counts. and it is a centerpiece collectible. So if you want to talk about value, you want to talk about trying to get your money back, I think she'll sell for $3K easy. If I put her up $3K, there'll be buyers instantly because she is limited. But if I'm going to break even, I have to charge basically $4,500 for her. If you want to take account PayPal fees, and I have to ship her on top of that. Are people willing to pay $4,000 for her? $5,000? Maybe, because again, the market is not saturated, and they did such an amazing job with her, and she's so unique. Again, female Wonder Woman silicon, and so much silicon used to create her. And Infinity Studios, I don't know if they're ever going to make another one of these because they're having so much trouble as it is with their life-size busts or torsos. So that's something to keep in mind, is that if you see her for very, very high prices out on the secondary market, understand that a lot of people, especially in North America, if it's based in North America, they probably pay close to $1,000 shipping just to get her in the house, on top of the $3,000 plus that it cost to just secure her. So anyways, that's a little bit of the nitty gritty, the boring details about the money, the limitation, and the resale value and all of that. But this is, of course, definitely a highlight of my collection. The Queen Studios Wonder size busts are always among my most favorite pieces. We've got, again, Hugh Jackman and Thanos and Loki, and now, she joins the ranks. They still have a couple out there. I think the Hulk silicone bust is something that's really, really beautiful, but I just don't have the space, unfortunately, to get him. I had to, draw the line somewhere. But, those are some of, in my opinion, some of the most worthy purchases, some of the greatest investments. If you have a lot of money to spend, I would rather get one of those than even 4 or 5 third scale, quarter scale pieces. So all stitched together, this is going to be well over an hour with multiple shots, multiple pictures. This is, again, probably what I would use for my thumbnail, but hopefully that gives enough information, more than enough information, and you can make an informed decision yourself about whether this is a piece you might want to get into. But this is a production level, piece, and I would just, and again, I'm saying one of the best collectibles of Wonder Woman out there. If you're a Wonder Woman fan, this is going to be the pinnacle of what you're going to get. No regrets there. So I hope you found that useful. Again, there's not many videos of her out there on YouTube, and this will be the longest by far, with the most, I think, shots of her, the most close-ups in loving detail of every little aspect of her. And so I'll end on that, and I may put up one more shorter video just with the J&D Studios next to her, so there could be some comparison of the likeness of the face and the differences. But that'll be it. Until that video, until next time, do take care. Bye-bye.